Alright, welcome back to the table. Now what I've started doing is prepping a lot of the pewter parts. I've gone ahead, trimmed them from the sprue, and now what I'm doing is focusing on cleaning up excess flash, trying to bend them so they look straight, dry fit them a little bit to see how they're going to fit to the resin hull. So this is a lot more involved than, say, the plastic kits. The plastic kits, everything comes out perfect, but these have a lot of imperfections that you got to try and make work somehow. So I wasn't gonna film this, but I thought what I would do is just make a short prep video. So what we're doing is assembling the first rate ship from the Royal Navy fleet set for black sails. And it does include a lot of pewter sails. It's got this really nice resin hull to it. So if you watch the unboxing, I'll show, I show a few more things and talk about it a little bit more. So this is just the cleaning and prepping for assembly, and then we'll do a separate assembly, or this will just be a really long video watching this process. So first, there's this boat off the back here, this boat launch, and not too bad. It's fairly clean. I didn't really have to there's a few things I might want to trim off a little bit, but the problem with that is I've got these things kind of bent a little bit where I want them to be, so I don't want to do too much and bend them all out of shape. But there's just a little bit of pewter here on these edges here that I can just kind of take this metal file and just kind of off camera just kind of scrape that a little bit, get the top there, just try and square those off a little bit, and they're not too bad. And then once I go to glue it into position, I'll just make sure that the arms are kind of equal. But it again, a lot of it is just dry fitting, so just kind of stick it in place where it needs to be, see what it looks like hanging off the back of the ship, and then from the back just making sure it's not all crooked to one side. So this back boat's pretty good. There's a few things that I can do on the boat itself here. I just felt a spur. And that's the only thing with pewter, is it just cleans up a little bit differently. So with that little spur, I'm just gonna take a little metal file and rub it a little bit, and then it's gone. All good, all good. Yep. So we're gonna set that aside. That's done. I'm done looking at that. Now I was playing with this bowsprit for a while, and this thing was crazy crooked. And I've straightened out quite a bit, but it's still not perfect. The thing is, some of this is cast pretty thick, so it's not really easy to bend. Like, you've got this here arm with sail attached to it, and it's like kind of bent like that. Like, I was trying to straighten it out more, but it's really thick pewter. And I don't want to heat it up or do anything drastic, which I've had some people say they heat it up. Don't ask me how they heat it up, I don't know, but I don't want to melt or anything. So I've just been trying to very carefully kind of make it not so tilted. That looks a little better. It's just part of the problem is if you do it too much, then it bends the actual mast. This up here was bent in several different ways, so I almost look like a little S. So it's been very hard to try and get that straight. But the bowsprit here is probably about where it's gonna be. So I did start on that one a little bit earlier, and I think that's about as good as I'm gonna get it. It's fairly straight. Once we kind of glue it down, I'll be able to better see where it needs to be bent, because it's going to fit in. And there's not a really good, because again it's pewter, so I've had to file the back here a little bit to make it nice and flat, because you can kind of see where it fits together to the hole here in the front. You've got these horns which kind of fit here. And then the bottom part here on the front of the ship has got actually a little notch where you can see there's some little pegs here on the bottom, and it kind of fits. I mean, they're not perfectly good fits, but you can kind of feel how it's supposed to go. So with enough glue, I'll be able to kind of guess where it needs to go. And then once I have it kind of glued into position, I'll be able to manipulate the pewter just a little bit more to try and get a nice final fit. But this bowsprit's going to just shoot straight up in the air because there also has to be enough room to fit the figurehead. And the figurehead I want to use is Poseidon, and it's a pretty tall figurehead. So trying to get that tall figurehead and then this bowsprit to go up over so it all fits is going to require more bending. And I hate that. The more you bend, the weaker it gets. And then, you know, if you bend too much, then it starts to not look very natural. So this figurehead is going right up into that bowsprit there. Just so it's going to be almost like another support for it, which ultimately won't be too bad, I don't think. That's fine if it wants to support that. But I almost wish that I had extra pair of hands to kind of get everything to hold in place. But oops, so I can tell that dry fitting is definitely a must. Yeah, and again, my camera work is terrible. I'm mostly holding it down here, so let's do that. Let's shift camera view a little bit here. And what I was trying to do was make sure that, you know, the mast is straight. It's not quite straight aligned with this front of the ship, so I want to try and bend that a little bit. Some of that's going to be, that's pretty good right there. And looking through the camera here, you can tell, just trying to line little pieces up. But I think, yeah, just depending on how I hold it, that's probably about as good as I'm going to get that on the front of the ship there. Like I said, you can see some things are kind of bent, but it's just really a lot of trial and error. Just bend a little bit, look at it, and get as close as you can. Because these things, the way they're poured, the pewter is either really thick in parts and it doesn't want to bend, or as it gets thinner, then it just becomes more fragile. So you got to get it into a shape that you're kind of happy with and then leave it there. So here's one of the masts. You can see here, for example, when I'm talking about the curves. This is when I decided to film this because I thought, you know, somebody might want to see what's involved here with putting these together. Got a little part that was stuck there, so we'll clean that. Because this is the part that's going to go into the resin hull of the ship. So just clean that a little bit. Okay. I see the connection point where I cut it from the sprue, so I'm just going to trim that down, or kind of file it down just a little bit, try and make it look more naturally round. Alright, that looks pretty good. But you can see here, I mean, look how bent that is. So the fix is just gently bend it where you want. Okay. Yeah, it'd be nice if you could easily see like a before and after. Looks like a bayonet on a really spindly rifle. But that is already looking better. You gotta look at it from here to see if it's twisted. Try to untwist it. It's got some burrs on the ends here. And then right here is a burr from where it connected. So I'm going to see if we can trim that one down. Yeah, that one came down pretty good. Ah, man, these things are bent horribly. Yeah, I would be so happy if they did first rates in plastic, just pure plastic like the other kits. That would be very useful for me. Alright, that looks pretty good. Right there, I can see a burr sticking up. We're going to grab that with the file. And that file's down real nice. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. And that's, move some of that. I don't have I need like a little blue piece of cloth or something. Ooh, I wonder if this will. I should have done this sooner. Let's see how this all shows up on the green cutting mat. That might show up better, actually. Okay, winner, winner, chicken dinner. Let's go with that. I'll bring some of these other pieces on as needed. Okay, I just bumped the camera big time there. You could probably tell the way it started shaking. All right, so here's the bowsprit that I spent some time on. So that's probably about as good as I'm going to get it. I'm sure there are people out there that are very good with working with pewter, but since that's not my strength, I'm just looking at it here. Yeah, it's not my forte, not my strength, but I think I've got it about where it's going to work for me. So I'm just going to set that off to the side. I think this is the mast. Which one were we working on? I think this one. Wasn't this one? Well, it wasn't that one. So let me double check this one here. So this one's got a little bit of a curve down here at the bottom. So I'm going to see if I can. I don't know what I can do with that. Oh, that's the other thing too, is with pewter, you bend it in one spot and then it's like, okay, the rest of it kind of bends with it. Alright, so I think that might be about what I'm going to get. Now, I haven't lined these up to see. Okay, that one. Okay, this goes on the back. This is the front, and here's the main. I know this one goes on back because there's no sails drooping down, and that's because it's going to have these items here are going to poke into it because they're going to hold the little back sail, whatever that's called. I'll have to figure out how to put that on here because the plastic kits, figuring this part out, they had like little notches and things that went exactly to show you where everything fit together. Here is going to be some trial and error, I can tell. But we'll save that one for last. So this will be the front mast. So how does that look? It's going to fit right in there. Now it's not a super snug fit either, so that means I'm going to have to glue it and then hold and hold and hold until the glue sets. So already I can tell that's going to be a little bit of a pain. Do I want to do that now? I'll probably wait till I can get these other ones and dry fit them a bit. Alright, so here I can already tell I'm going to have to file this down a little bit. It's got a little burr, a not happy burr. Just want to file down this happy little burr. Then if I had better tweezers, like a nice little, something with a good grip. Oh, hey, that actually kind of gripped it better than I thought. But now it's the bending and shaping portion of this. And so I'm just basically trying to get this to look as straight as I possibly can. And we've got these arms, a little burr on the end. Oh gosh. Problem with it when it kind of makes an S shape is you gotta like bend at the bottom, you get the bottom straight, and then the top, and then you gotta like bend it against each other in two different spots, and that can lead to some odd looking things. And then that arm needs to come down a bit, and it's got a burr here on the bottom. Alright, so that's good. Got a little burr on the end. Okay. And again, just trying to bend and counter bend, bend and counter bend. Get rid of the S's as much as possible. And twist. What I did here was I put a little bit of a twist on the top because this part here that connects these two mast pieces was actually kind of off on the side a little bit, and so I just twisted it so it was more towards the front, and then I have to counter bend some of the other pieces so everything kind of lines up straight like when you look down. So yeah, it's a whole lot of, you twist in one spot and that causes a lot of other things to twist too, so you just kind of got to go back. And again, you don't want to over twist or over bend anything because that's going to weaken it. Now again, not going to make it perfectly straight, but the idea is to get it looking straighter than it was. And I think if I just shave a couple parts down, that does look straighter than it was. There was a burr here off of that stand. And of course, without a second person to help zoom in. So the burr is right here a little bit. So I'm just going to sand that down, file it. And it's starting to feel pretty smooth. Alright, not bad, not shabby. Not perfect, but again, it's not bent horribly as it was. Yeah, it still has some issues, but it'll be easier to see some of the issues once we start putting it on the actual ship and we can see how it lines up to the other masts. And because it's pewter, while it's super glued in, you can make some slight adjustments while it's actually glued in and supported by the resin hull. Okay, so here's the back. Let's see, did I do this one already? Yeah, so here's the back one. Now this one actually turned out pretty good. I don't think I had messed with this one at all, but that one is actually in pretty good shape. Get a little burr. When you prime it and paint, a lot of those burrs will really stand out. So like if you miss it now, once you prime it with some kind of color, a lot of people prime with black. White will definitely show a lot of imperfections if you prime with white. I've been kind of doing this British sand desert color. It kind of helps with giving the thing an overall kind of a wood feel when I put like different washes on it. Okay, now here, I don't know if you can see, but there's quite a bit of a burr on the end here. So we'll just take our metal file. Now, in case, because some people ask where I get things, this was from the dollar store. Just a little metal file from their beauty section. $1 for a metal file. I didn't think that was too shabby. And for the little bit of pewter work that I do, it's just fine. I mean, if you did a lot of pewter, you might want something more invested than, you know, dedicated. But just for the little bit that I do, it's worked out really well. Just get kind of those tips a little bit. You gotta be careful because I'm bending them. That's what I said. Me and pewter do not get along. Boom, 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 boom. All right. I need a little thinner, you know, kind of like the round rasps. Get in there to them smaller areas. All right. Well, now it's just a matter of some little preliminary bends. See if we can make it straighter than it was. And it's slowly looking better. Okay, now this bottom, definitely a huge piece of flash you can see right there. So let's that big chunk of it broke off. So what I'm going to do now, after I broke that off, is just kind of hit it here with the file a bit. Alright, and that's good. Alright. I think, yeah, they look bent no matter what. I did that a lot with the World War II ships, the little barrels on the turrets. You fiddle, and you're like, yeah, they look great. And then once you actually take a picture of it and paint it, you're like, wow, those things are bent like crazy. So I think as good as these look in person, they're probably, from a third perspective, another person, they're always going to look kind of bent and crooked. But, you know, that's the part that gives it charm, right? There's a couple burrs here on the front. I'm just going to hit that real quick. Get them both at the same time. There we go. Alright. Yeah, that's probably about as good as that's going to get. And then we have these parts. I hold the little sail on the back. Now that one was really bent. Plus it's got pretty sizable burrs that come off. I mean, they come off pretty good. That's the nice thing. Just give this a nice little filing, and a lot of those burrs and snags come right off. Okay, and it's just a matter of, does it look straight? For the moment, yes. Not too shabby. And here, another burr. And just hit the tip. Just the tip, please. And try to bend that a little bit. These aren't too bad because these are a little bit thicker pewter. They're not as prone to bending, so they probably traveled so much better than some of these other parts. So for now we'll leave those. I'm just setting them aside. They look fine. Again, once they're glued and dried in place, then I'll be able to make final adjustments with the pewter. Here were some anchors. Yeah, these are kind of jacked up. But again, it's just a matter of finding like these long pieces of flash like that and take it off. And then just hit it with the file a little bit, smooth it down. And then look to see, okay, there's some here. Well, actually that's not too bad. Is it straight though? Oh, man. Yeah, these anchors are not looking too good. Let's see here if I can bend that down. Problem is I'm holding the anchor, and so when I try to shape it, the other side kind of goes against the opposite direction. Okay, so that's an anchor. I mean, it's not too terrible. And we might actually put an anchor or two on this one, so let's say that's good. And then it's got a couple of boats, and a lot of it too is just figuring out where you want to put the boat. And these boats aren't too bad. The back here is where they connected to the sprue they were attached to, so I'm going to just file that down a little bit. Not too much. Alright, that boat looks pretty good. That's if I use a lot of the boats. Some of these boats have, like, they hang off the side of the ship, so I've got these connections here so they can hang off the side. So I'm just going to trim those a little bit, because it's also the connection point to the sprue where they were, so just kind of file it down so it looks smooth. Alright, that one looks pretty good. And this one, we hit the backs. Hopefully that doesn't sound too grating on the ears. It's a little bit of white noise, maybe you like that. I feel like I just should do the what is that, AMSR? And now I'm filing the pieces. Oh yeah, that feels so good. That's nice and smooth now. Alright, there you go. Well, that's two ships. There's a couple more anchors. There was another figurehead, a couple of figureheads I won't worry about because I'm not using all the figureheads. And then a couple of these boats that fell off. They weren't attached to anything. But they look fine. They look fine if I use them. So a couple boats are fine. And this part here goes on the hull. But the problem is, it's so much smaller than the resin casting. It's like, really? That doesn't even fit. Like, whoever designed that part I'm a little disappointed in. I'll have to carefully place it with the tweezers and glue it. You know, if I put it right smack dab in the middle, then that's not too bad actually. Once it's in place, and I think once you glue it, I think that'll be fine. It does have a little bit of work though, just a little bit. There's a couple burrs on here I want to get that I saw. If I can get in there. I can't really get in here very good, so I'm going to X-Acto knife it a little bit. And just kind of scrape. Oh yeah, that don't sound good. Yeah, that's probably about as good as that's going to be. Let's see, I'm looking at this. I had an anchor. Yeah, the instructions showed that you might end up with a lot of anchors attached to the ship here. Let me see if I can find the first-rate instructions real quick here. Yeah, see, it's got boats sitting on the top here. And it's got 4 anchors attached, two precise. So it's got 4 anchors. Your pick of figurehead that you want, that's the question mark you choose. The back there, back, middle. Yeah, 2 little boats off the running boards here on the side. So it's using all 4 anchors that way. So that, I have not put a single anchor on any of the other ships I've done, and I don't think they looked any worse for not having them. And I'm looking here, and I don't see any anchors in their sample ship either. Do you see anchors? No, it's a really bad picture. So I might just skip the anchors altogether because I'll save them. Who knows, maybe at the end of this I'll be like, you know what, let's put anchors. But for now, because they're just real fiddly, maybe I'll do 1 anchor per side instead of 2. Alright, well that is all of the pewter pieces prepared, about as good as I can get it. Obviously someone who is much more versed in pewter can probably have these things looking fantastic, but that's what we're going to go with for now. So what I'll do here is pause this and we'll make a whole separate assembly. So now that we've unboxed it, we've cleaned up the pewter a bit as best we can, and now we'll come back to another day and we'll do assembly. Alright, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all later. Bye.